name is Felix Klope. I come from Umlazi. I grew up in Umlazi. My family comes from Mbumbulu. My mother comes from Nkandla. So Mbumbulu, ngiphuza ukekete, umuhosha ngakithi, mfundo ngakithi inongwane. Kanti Nkandla sisohlelo emachunwini. That's where my mother comes from. So I claim those three places as my birthplaces. Mbumbulu, Nkandla kanye noMlazi.
Wow. Hi, my name is Tracy Smith-Lope, and I am originally from Pietermaritzburg. That's it.
I was there minding my own business. I was there on Gagasi Detail. We were doing a show at the Botanical Gardens in Pietermaritzburg. It was a Zex Bantwini show, and I had a show on Sunday. Then it's a show that started at 2 p.m. and ended at 6. So I was there just minding my business, you know. So when I finished my show, I tried to pack my things up, ready to leave. And Vugile was then MD, asked that I remain behind with the guys and whatever not. So reluctantly, I went and I sat. I started having a drink, and a friend of mine who was a musician came through with two girls in tow. One of them was sexy as hell. I said, ooh, I like your style. I'm joking. So he asked if he could join our table, and I said yes. And and then so he invited the two ladies, and one sat next to me, and we've never been apart.
That is the truth. How we met, I was attending a picnic. Actually, the picnic was like over when we got there. Very reluctant to go there, but when we got there, a friend of ours seated us next to Felix. And because I was so tired, I sat closest to him because there was a backrest on the sofa. And since then, the rest is history.
So we met that day, and she now lives with me. And there's two other people that live with us that came from her. I am African. I am Ngoni. My people come from Swaziland, Mhlophe, so I'm Mapengu. But here in South Africa, we are Tumbeza, Samela, Tumbeza Nongonyezi, Tumbeza Kamien. So I identify both as Swazi and Zulu. I was brought up Zulu, but my roots are Swazi. But I identify as Ngoni, 100% Ngoni.
What culture do I identify with? Gosh, this is difficult. I'll just say South African as a whole, because I was raised by my grandparents, my grandfather being a white foreigner and my grandmother being Zulu. And my father he's mixed race, raised by a Zulu mother, never raised by his father. So I've never really identified with any culture. My family didn't believe in, isn't the scene and all that. So South African as a whole.
And she speaks with two accents. She speaks like this when she talks to me, and when her phone rings on her colored cousin, she switches accents and speaks in, is it Woodlands? No, not Woodlands. Eastwood. Yeah. You didn't mention that in...
Yeah, well, I didn't grow up in Eastwood. My mother lived in my mother and father both lived in Eastwood, but I grew up in the suburbs, Bisley and Cleveland.
Oh, you're the burb girl. It's all good in the hood, but I hear it's better in the burbs. I would say growing up in the era that I grew up in, we missed out on a lot of things, or should I say we weren't exposed to a lot of things. I'm starting now to get exposed through Tracy, especially when it comes to cuisine. I've never really tried other cuisines and all of that. So we're going on this culinary journey that she's teaching me a lot of things, and she has Tacos Tuesday with my sister. And I'd never before in my life tasted that, or even had a desire to taste such food. And also just exposure. There's certain things that I've never generally been exposed to or had an interest in that I'm now exposed to through her. I'm not sure if it has a lot with her being raised in a mixed family or having colored roots or just her as an era she grew up in. But I think as a person, I'm walking down a learning curve with her. So there's a lot that I'm teaching her about my culture also. Literally, we are blessed with 2 properties now, and I've not done the ritual yet of ukuvulumuza, ukubekumuza, ukuletha idlozi. Even the, what do you call it, the umbilical cords, we still keep them because I hadn't done that ritual. So only now will I start doing imbelego. Only now she understands the significance of why we still have the umbilical cord, of why we need to slaughter goats, of why our children still to this day, with our first one is 4 years old, still if we've never cut her baby hair, still keeps the same hair because we need to observe certain things. So I'm walking with her side by side, teaching her these things, and she's very receptive and has the general willingness to learn about my culture. So we borrow from each other's cultures, like she said earlier. She's not identified with a particular culture, but she's open to learning about different cultures. So I think also her culture of learning, her culture of wanting to know, finding identity, I think that is also something I find attractive.
Oh gosh, I absolutely adore the Zulu culture. Growing up not identifying with it, I've always been intrigued by their practices and their ways. And now being with Felix, it's really teaching me a lot about the Zulu culture. More so, I identify myself as Zulu now that I'm married to him. So yeah, it's a learning curve, and I'm happy to learn and embrace all the cultural benefits that come with it, like traditional wedding, all those things. I can't wait to experience.
The challenges we've faced in trying to blend each other's cultures.
The challenges we've faced are none. I'm very receptive of the Zulu culture, and we understand each other, and yeah.
For fear of my life, I will refrain from answering that question. I'm joking. I think, honey, honestly, is the food. There's the food we call offal. Most of our traditional food is based on offal. It's based on inyama yangaphakathi, the inside. So we're talking about the intestines, inyama enhloko and she doesn't indulge in that type of food. And I'd really love for her to, as much as she prepares like trotters for me and all of that, but she's never actually indulged. And I would love for her to just try.
No. It's one thing I'm not going to try. Thank you.
So culturally, I think that's the biggest clash is the food. Yeah. Like she explained earlier, I think Tracy is more of a global citizen. She's not localized in her approach. So she has this thing of wanting to learn, borrow from Latin American dishes to East African dishes, Moroccan. She doesn't have something that she would call her own. As such, she's claimed the whole world. And as such, I have been everywhere through all the corners of the world, just in there from my dining table. So I think that is the one thing I like about my wife. And is she's never too shy to experiment and try new recipes from the internet and so forth. So I think in my home, my kids will grow up in that culture of food, of just going on these culinary journeys to places we've actually never set foot in. So I think for me, yeah, that's that.
Okay, food. For me, what they call poverty food is what I enjoy. Like your Istanbul, cabbage, all of those things I really love. Like, but he would call it poverty food. But now that I make it for him, I've obviously been able to change his mind.
I don't call it poverty.
You do call it poverty food.
No, I think it's an aspirational thing. You know, when you eat food because you have to, and it's just what is available, and then you make promises to yourself and say, one day, you know, I want to be able to afford me that, and that. And if I go back there, I think it just brings back bad memories, you know. But I do understand, but I think maybe in time you'll also understand where I'm coming from. Ukuthi kuse fethi iklabishi nesasingadliswa ukuthi sihlale iklabishi sasidliswa ukuthi inyama yikho khona lona so ubhontshisi bethi usharp bethi but ukuthi bethi it was just the food that was there, you know what I mean, like canned food yabo lokhuza tuna fish, canned tuna, sorry, tin fish, beg your pardon. For us it was never something SCT say enjoy it. It was just something that we could afford at the time.
That was something I'd indulge in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. Yeah. Come here, we call it poverty food.
That's what you call it.
I think it's generally around my kids. What language they speak at home, what language we speak at home to each other, and people get surprised often when they find out that Tracy can speak Zulu. And also the stereotypes generally around colored people in arguments and debates and fights. If she throws missiles at me, type of thing. But it's just to I don't know, to give a chuckle here and there. But basically, it's that. So I don't know, man. What do your kids speak? Because obviously, when people see my kids, they can tell that they mix race. Yeah. So those are the only ones. I've never had anything offensive asked to me by someone.
Yeah. And neither have I. Those are the same questions that I get. Yeah.
I don't know, but it's just not the first color that dated.
Okay.
I'm joking. I kid. Well, I think the one thing that made me fall in love with Tracy was the calmness in her. She has a very calm spirit. It took her quite a bit of time for her to ease into my family and be able to spark a conversation. At first, she only spoke when spoken to. She only maybe hid certain parts about her personality, but I think they got along from the get-go because she laughs a lot and she's very attentive. She listens and she takes part, and she's a very kind-hearted person. So they didn't see a person from a different race because she can speak in isiZulu, and she quickly assimilated herself with our practices and things that we do. So I think they just got on like a house on fire from the get-go. So there were never, as far as I know, any hindrances and whatever not. But you sort of like teach her to say, hey, listen, we don't address people by first name unless they give you permission to. You always add a title before. So you cannot just be Benson. You see the Bob Benson, Malum Benson, put Benson, and so forth. But like with my sister, she calls her Lulu. And then Uma Efuna Ugumenza feel like kids like, hey, when I'm Lulu. But I think that's the only thing. With her culture, a person is addressed by their name with no title or prefix before the name, and it's just a generally accepted thing. And I think that's the only thing that raised eyebrows. Other than that, I don't quite recall anything else. They just gone along like a house on fire.
With my family, I think because we're so diverse, wasn't really an issue or a problem or a thing. I mean, they are black people in my family, Zulu people, so he was accepted.
Except for when we decided to get married. We were just given permission to get married. I was like, no, I'm a Zulu man. I will lobola.
I wanted you to lobola me.
Yeah. I was like, no way. There's no way that we're just going to get married. It just didn't make sense to me. So I asked that they get, I think culturally for them, that's how they've always been, you know. We were the first one to go through that particular tradition. So it was a fest in their family to have omalume befike bathi baba esangweni bangene bakhuleke sifike sikhuleke ngenkomo sihlale phansi senze izalukwazi senze intombi sikhiphe inkomo sibuye sizoqedela amalobolo but yaletha so much joy in her family, and everyone is looking forward to a traditional ceremony. So I think Nabo, they were joyful that they get to experience that. But it was the first time in the family.
Am I worried about stereotypes? No. No, I'm not. I love a Zulu man.
Thank you, baby. Oh, you're such a charmer. No, I've never been worried, no. Never. I've always carried the fear if she'd be accepted from my family side, especially family from the countryside. But from my family here in the urban setting, no worries at all.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I couldn't wear it every day.
Yeah, I like how it looks good on you. Like when we get invited or when I'm out as an MC at functions and we're supposed to wear traditional attire, she's always the first to say, hey, I want to try that out. And it looks very good on her. I'm happy to share some pics with you also. But I don't know, man. Do you have a traditional attire? No?
I'm South African.
She doesn't come from a culture that has traditional attire. Traditional attire would be dickies and sabagos. I'm joking.
I don't think so, because like he stated earlier, the things that need to be done with our kids, them not cutting their hair yet and all of that is something that's always intrigued me and something that I've always wanted to do for my children. So on my side, I accept everything.
We are side by side on how we raise our kids. I'm also open to her wanting, because it's still her kids, you know what I mean? I'm open to learning other things also about her culture and how she'd like to infuse and maybe instill what values she'd like to instill into our kids that are of her own. So it's still a learning curve. You know, in a room full of 10 people who have been in love, who know what love is, and if you were to ask them what love is, you would get 10 different definitions of what love is. So to answer your question, for me, love is acceptance. For me, love is two hearts that beat as one. For me, love is forgiveness. For me, love is venturing into the unknown, and love is living up to your roles. You know what I mean? I have a duty to protect and provide. I have a duty to provide an environment that my kids can live to their fullest potential.
My definition of love, wow, okay, oh gosh. My definition of love is just being open with each other, being present, being very aware of each other's likes and dislikes, being accepting of one another, and just learning each other's love languages and portraying them to one another, and just always just being there for one another and never questioning each other. And yeah, I guess that's my definition of love.
She does question me. Hey, nigga, where you be? Who you be with? How much you spend? What's that in your pocket? Joking.
I think it's something, because it's something that I grew up under, my grandfather being white, my grandmother being Zulu. It's something that I've seen growing up and seeing it being accepted over the years. I think now people are more accepting and don't really pay attention to it. You're with who you're with because you love them, and it's not really a big deal what culture they come from. But yeah.
I think society is slowly maturing in that direction of acceptance. In certain places, yes. It still raises eyebrows. It still comes with a bit of shock. And sometimes there's a bit of, for the lack of a better word, envy. And I know, especially with the direction, when you go out to places like your Keys and you are there in a generally colored groove and you're there with a colored woman, there is that snide look and remark, and you kind of feel that, hey, okay, and you take your girl to places like your Cubana and they look at you and they see a woman is colored and they're like, you know, it's still there. You ignore it. It's dust and smoke. But in your own circles, with your people, your tribe, they're more accepting. But I think the society as a whole is maturing fast towards that direction because it's now a common occurrence.
Yeah, they are. They're very accepting. I think I started ignoring it a long time ago when I get questioned. So to me, it's just...
But I think often you tell me stories of back in high school, of how you've experienced intolerance from other girls.
People wouldn't accept that I identify as being colored. They would always mock me and pick on me and say, you're not colored. You think you're better than us, identifying as a colored person and all that. But now, tables have turned. Now all of a sudden I'm colored, which is wild.
So wait, colored people are not accepting of you because of your...
No, not colored people, like just everyone at school.
Yeah.
I didn't go to a colored school, remember. I went to predominantly Zulu, not Zulu, but black learners. And they were not accepting of that. They wanted me to be like them. And they weren't accepting of me saying during the, what you call it, the census, when you'd have to raise your hand, I'd be the only one. They'd always like, you know. But yeah, but now the same people call me colored.
The cultural stereotype that has been broken, now that we're together, one that I've never experienced also, but the one that is, I don't know, that is widely held out there is violence, is colored people that will beat you up. That if you are with a colored woman, she would throw crockery around the house. I've never experienced that, so I've always believed it. But now that I've enjoyed proximity to one person who I share a bed and a home with, I've actually never experienced that. So that has now cancelled out. I don't believe in that anymore. Or she's helped me break that stereotype. So, yeah.
The one stereotype that has been broken for me is that Zulu men are not romantic. And they don't care for all those lovey-dovey things. And that stereotype has been broken. My husband is very romantic.
amanga loo nto ayikho loo nto leyo ekayise le nto loo mense into abantu abawiki laa bantu teketeke angiyenzi loo nto leyo le nto ayishoyo le nto ingayikholwa loo nto.
Lies.
Okay, I never thought you'd ask that. If we have a special sign or a handshake that is unique to us, we do. It's our how do I put it, credo, if I can put it like that. It's called always and forever, and it's always and forever. So each time after we fight and forgive each other, we always try to reassure one another that we always be there, always and forever, and that our relationship will last always and forever. So whether it's a moment that we're celebrating, or we've come out of a rough patch, or just if another needs support, or I've maybe faced feature, and she assures me, she always gives me a warm embrace, and she would say this, always and forever.
Our, what you call it, the sign is always and forever. I think it's something that started very early in our relationship. I think when we met, we knew somehow that we're going to be together forever. So that holds a lot of significance in our relationship. So when you go through the rough patches, we always know automatically to remind each other that we are always and forever.
Always and forever.